final part of the session. And I hope you're up for a bit of do's and don'ts. I've invited Henriette to come here because she is one of Denmark's leading social media experts. And as you've probably already seen among the handouts, we have a masterclass on the 25th of October, helping those of you who want to work further with your social media planning. Now, here are some short do's and don'ts, some examples, and this is also your opportunity to fire away with any questions you may have. So, get it.
Thank you. So, I'm the real social media expert.
the real one.
I pride myself on being an unusual kind of social media expert, and I think that one of the key ideas of why I'm so much into CSR is because I started out when I met Tanya. I wrote for an English blog called Green Goes Global, where we wrote about environmental issues. And after I've been writing around 30 blog posts and articles about all these things happening to the environment, I was kind of like, this is getting me too much down. I need to write about the positive stuff. And I started to write about companies who were actually taking this really seriously and actually using it as a part of their whole marketing and branding strategy. So I have like a CSR and a branding focus to everything I do. And yeah, I've been invited here to do do's and don'ts. So basically putting our whole masterclass into 20 minutes. Actually, normally it's not really hard for me to do a do's and don'ts in social media, but the scope of the landscape now is just so wide, so I cannot touch on everything. So I have done a presentation that is around 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then I just hope that you'll just fire at me with your questions and we can take it from there, because I would really like to answer some of the what would you say, the considerations that you have. So a bit about me. I have a website called Henriette. That's my personal website where I sell a lot of speaking gigs, do a lot of advice for companies, and I write a lot of articles on social media and on branding and on business revolutions, as I call it, which is my prime motivator for actually doing what it is I do, is actually change business and have been doing something different, which is cool. So, and I'm an author. I have a book, self-published, and it's sold almost 1,000 copies in Danish, which is quite a lot for a social media book. It's 3 years old. It would turn 3 years old a couple of days back. So if you want a copy, let me know. And then I'm the CEO and digital strategist and implementer of Toothless Tiger. So I don't call myself a social media expert because I think the implementation and the strategy and the whole business part is more important than the actual tools. So, yes, that's just, I just said that, I guess. So, I think social media is really important for CSR, or I think that you guys who are actually implementing CSR in social media have a huge advantage, because it makes people from me who are coming out into the companies not sitting and discussing what kind of message that they have to put on social media. And that's normally, that's really cool for me, but it's also, it also gives some sort of drive behind the whole social media campaign, so it's not just, for example, if you're a baker, that you're actually saying, hey, buy more bread or something like that. It goes deeper beyond that. It reaches something that everybody basically can align with, because it's like, hey, they're doing something different in their industry, they're doing something more cool. So there's a massive potential for engagement compared to other campaigns. So this is my building blocks for social media. I draw them myself. That's because I'm a small company, But every time I go out every time I go out and talk to people, I always categorize social media into these 4 types of factors. Like, there's a huge emphasis of identity. Everybody gets that, I think so, now. And there's a huge priority on content, on tools. I'm not that much into the tools, but I think it is really important. And there's a huge factor that's called productivity. So I started out with blogging, and I have done a lot of work for startups back in 2000 where there weren't actually no real relationship building on the internet. So the whole community side of social media is what I think is really important. The whole, well, I have some examples. The whole, we are not just broadcasting on Twitter, or we're just not just broadcasting on Facebook. We're actually like reaching out to people and talking to them first. I think that's really key to this whole thing. So, yeah, I see the priority number one as substance and engagement. I think that I think Coleman is one of my new favorite cases, but I have some cases where that has a large part of substance and engagement in it. And I think that social media can make your stories travel faster and further. So we have been talking a lot of about values, but I think it's really important that we know what kind of values the people are meeting when we're on social media. Like 10 years you start out with saying, that you can't control your brand anymore, and I'm like, yeah, you can, but the gatekeeper has kind of changed. Like before, in this, what would you say, passive landscape that's still part of the society called television and advertising in traditional media. I think brand control was something that the media controlled, whereas branding today is something that the individual controls. So by changing the gatekeeper role to being the individual person, you need to change, what would you say, the role of your brand. So I also have some slides on crisis management, which I think is really important. It makes crisis management on social media and on the internet these days like completely different than you would have if you have like a huge PR agency actually telling you what to talk about and what not to talk about in the media. So, and yeah, make sure you do things 100%. So this is, every time I talk to people, they're always like, well, yeah, that's on the B2C market. Like, what about the B2B market? So I actually did B2C and B2B. So actually, I'm not going to go that much into this. You all know Innocent Drinks, right? They're awesome. But what I want you to see is how they actually, on all their pictures that I looked up of them, they have grass everywhere, which I thought was really cool. Also, they have like the big knit, which is really big in the UK, where they have old people knitting stuff to actually talk to each other. But when I did my return on involvement book, I went in to talk to the CEO of Innocent Drinks in Denmark. He was called Christian at the time. And one of the things that really stood out to me of them being a brand of substance was that he was sitting behind his stupid green desk right at the front door. So, I mean, you wouldn't have to go all through the office to actually meet him. He would be the first person greeting you. Also, I know he told me that, for example, he got to go to a lot of logistic conferences because they have simply eliminated airplane travel. What do you call it? Airplane transportation for their goods and all over the world. And the rest of the logistic companies, they're like, how is that possible? You can't do that. Like, it's completely out of limits. And he's just like, well, we just decided that was not something that was within our values. And I think that speaks very strongly of their identity, that you actually meet them firsthand everywhere you see them, basically. And they communicate that brand value everywhere. So somebody else that I think is doing something really cool is IBM. They have this whole Smarter Planet concept. They have actually a conference coming up on the 18th of September, which is free, out in Bella Sky, where they're talking about smarter business, smarter cities, how can we do like technology more smarter, and I think it's actually for free, so I would encourage you to go out there. And they have, for their core group, which is, what would you say, technologists and people that are really into IT, I think it's a very good touch on this whole thing we see coming somewhere out in the future, which is called the Web of Things, where things are communicating together, you know, and robots and all these. So that's their touch of them. And like, what they also have is, this is actually, you can't really see that, but this is from their Smarter Planet LinkedIn group, where there was like 30,000 people. And this is from all their Smarter Planet talks that they have done with various experts. So they actually put it out, they publish it out online using social media for that. So emphasizing their message by using the technology that they're actually talking about, which is pretty awesome. So I have some dotes. You all know about our honest cupcakes. So what do you think? Do you have any like bits on what went wrong there? Yeah, but what was that the prime reason that thing went so wrong, or what was it? Yeah.
I think it's incredible that they were marketing themselves that vividly, and then all of a sudden when this story comes out, and they apparently didn't know how to solve it.
I think it was. I think it was also the whole idea of having a really cool cupcake company newly started in Copenhagen and all these things, and then you had a CEO that basically was an asshole, and then you had a communication teams that didn't speak human, like on social media. So everybody just kept throwing cupcakes at them and said, you know, we want you here. No, but that's I think that's a really important factor. You know, that your communication department speaks human. Another thing that I think is really big, I mean, I could be really a social media expert, I shouldn't say, just don't do anything stupid. No, but another thing that's really, what would you say, important is not to manipulate the message too much. So one of my favorite cases is the case that Belkin did, and they're a B2B company. No, they actually had their business developer, the management team said that they didn't know about this, but they had their business development manager putting up jobs on Mechanical Turk, which is a big site for that Amazon they did, where you can post jobs that are kind of like manual, but robots can't do it. So you get people to do it for like 5 cents or something. But he posted jobs of people rating their servers. So he would like you to go in and rate, like give one of their servers a 5-star rating on Amazon, and he would pay you like 10 cents, which manipulated the whole idea of the servers, because everybody could see that, like from the reviews that the servers got, that they weren't any good, but they were like top rating on Amazon, and there was this blogger who was like, so what's wrong here? And he found out that their business manager or development manager, he did this, and that kind of backfired on them a bit. So they actually, I think it's 2 years ago, and they're still working like massively with trust issues. Every time they go out like on media, they're like, we're sorry. So that's something really important as well. That's something you don't do as a part of your identity. So you need to keep it all intertwined, keep it substantial, and keep it 100%. Oh, I can't really see that, can you? No.
Maybe you know what it says, so you
Maybe
can help us.
Of course. No, I don't know what it says. No. No, actually, I thought, I could stand up here and talk about, this is this great idea for content. We could do this. That would be awesome. But I'm pretty sure that all of you have some really good ideas about what kind of content you could do that would be great for your brands. So what I've been trying to do here, and this is going to be sent out later, right? Is actually to show you resources versus quality of content. So for example, if you say, we're going to be in social media, and you're going to say, so how much is that going to cost? And well, it kind of depends. If every post that you're going to put out there is a YouTube video that costs like 50,000 kroner, or is a status message that you post on Facebook. So here I said, this is for example status messages and tweets, Instagram pictures, blog posts, articles, blog posts with pictures that you took yourself, infogram, video blog, newsletter, ebooks or white papers, and then produce videos in top. So it depends on what kind of content that you're doing. It could have these. You could do a tweet like for example, the blog post you show from your, that could have been an infogram, you know, like posted on Pinterest or something like that, saying this is how much it costs of water if you like open up a can of soybeans or whatever. So it doesn't really depend on the message. The message could be the same. Like you could have 5 videos made from the message that you should not be like using too much water, or you could post it in a status message and nobody would, well, people would probably like it, but they wouldn't think that much about it. So it depends on how you actually put in the whole landscape of the different types of content. So I put this in instead of doing the whole, great content thing. The tools. These are some of the tools that I see is out there right now, but it's really interesting in the data landscape. So you have Facebook on top, of course, LinkedIn, Google+, YouTube, Twitter, Quora. Have you guys heard about Quora?
No.
No, the Quora is pretty great for people like you. No, Quora is pretty great for people who has a lot on their mind and want to debate stuff. So you could go in there and post a question saying, who is the top social media expert in Denmark? Henriette, I never would know. But you could go in there and post something like saying, so does anybody know how much water it takes to produce a can of soybeans? And then people would go in and answer that. And then other people would go in and kind of upvote the answers, so the correct answer would get a lot of votes. And you could use that really strategically, actually. So I think we're going to see a lot of that in Denmark. So if you haven't checked out Quora, you need to do that. And then Pinterest is also steadily rising. That's really good if you have any types of visual content that you want people to see, especially if you're a design firm or you're doing something that relates to fashion or whatever. It has a huge potential there. But what I think is really interesting is that normally you would stand and say, so we have Facebook, but actually all of them, they have gotten like different subgroups now. So you don't only have like Facebook, you have a Facebook page, you have a Facebook group, you have a Facebook profile, you have Facebook ads, you have all the comments, you have landing pages. And actually, through most of these tools, you get these as well. You can also have ads on YouTube or LinkedIn and Google. So it's really important to say, how does these different sub-tools in social media vary from the message, and how can you use that in your overall branding? So, is there anyone here who doesn't know the difference between a Facebook page and a personal profile? Good. Because I get that question quite a lot. So, if you have questions about the different tools, please ask me afterwards, and I'll be sure to emphasize what they could be used for. Maintenance versus productivity. Productivity is really big in my catalog, you would say. I think it's because I'm community born. So what I took is that I took, don't mind the brand, right? Because everybody does this, basically. So I took you, he, she, and they're, basically you can see that they're the ones who are doing all the tweets. So for me to actually go in and say, is this an interactive brand on Twitter? I just have to look at the profile page and say, are they actually engaging with anybody? No, they're not. This in particular, though, this person, she's an entrepreneur. She's really cool, and she's a friend of mine. And she's like on Twitter all the time. So if you can see on every tweet that she does, there's like, it's kind of hard to see. There's an ad, and then there's a name and a reply. And it says, great idea, thank you, you know. It's like, oh, this is so incredibly fine or something, blah, 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 blah. So she's actually communicating with these. They're just kind of broadcasting. They're like, why doesn't our Twitter strategy work? Well, maybe it's because you don't take the initial approach to actually talk to people. Where I would say that this is very proactive, while this is not at all. And you can emphasize it. Like you could also say, okay, we have a Facebook page on soybeans. So why doesn't anybody who really likes soybeans go into our soybean Facebook page? I mean, we told everybody, and we have like 50 fans, so where are the rest of them? We're like, well, maybe you should try to look at the other groups who are into soybeans, or like the other people who are discussing like the different flavors of soybeans or whatever, instead of just being in your own playground, you would say. Because as I see it, the Facebook page, or for example, a blog, is still within your own, what would you say, backyard. It's not social. It's not out there in the landscape where the rest of the people are social. You're still like, hey, come and visit my page. Go to my blog. Do something. So I think that's really important as well. As I said, they might be talking or stating things, but they're not generating leads, and they're not building trust through their conversations, which is why I think from a commercial and branding perspective is why you should be using social media. Or that's why I use it anyway. So my last slide, I've done it really specific because I think that's it's something that is really talked about in Danish media, and every time like if Tilo or somebody does something wrong, it's like instead in front of big T, the Twitterverse went completely crazy because there was some guy who posted a comment there. But I think it's really important that businesses they start facilitating what I call the 80%. So I have been doing a lot of gigs lately where I actually go in and work with companies with their trust, because I was the chairman of the board for the Social Commerce Award that was given out at e-handelsprisen this spring, and everybody, all the e-commerce sites that came in there, the first thing they said was like, "This is how much we rate on Trustpilot." And then that also became the emphasis of most of the judges, but they're like, but they're rating like 9.6 on Trustpilot. Like, we have to give the award to these people. And I think that's kind of a dangerous development, because I've been working with Fat Denmark, who is over here, and they have like a very low, amount of people giving them good reviews on Trustpilot. And I think it's because that we forget that there's like 80% of people that is not using Trustpilot, and that's maybe because they haven't had a terrible experience with a brand or a really, really good, like extremely fantastic good experience with a brand. So there's like, I would say there's like 80% of people that you could actually go out and actually try to get into Trustpilot and say, okay, we're going to use you to build this trust around you. So we might rate larger if we don't have 30 messages or 30 reviews in there saying that we suck, but if we have like 150 that say that we're pretty good at what we're doing. And I think that's an important tool for the future for businesses, because if the rest of the business society is using Trustpilot in this amount to actually show how much trust they have, then it's a bit of shame to people who are not. Hannah?
Yeah, I think one of the places where Trustpilot will become tremendously valuable is that when you have detractors, people who are extremely negative, when you go in and work focused with Trustpilot and you actually convert these people, they will often go in and rewrite their review or add the story. So they actually tell the story about how you have used so much energy on putting the wrong right. So you actually end up getting good promoters out of working with your detractors. And for that, Trustpilot is a great tool.
It also shows that, if you actually go in here as a company and start to respond to these negative messages, the tone of the conversation changes completely, because then they're not throwing Rotten Tomatoes at a wall, they're throwing it at a real person. I think that's really also I think like I talked to Fed and I told them, like we have like 3 people that are really happy for a product, like they haven't used it that much yet, and I was like, we should send them flowers. They're like, are you crazy? Crazy and stuff like. But literally, why not? Like maybe not send them flowers, but why not exceed their expectations even further? Sort of like, well, the community manager of the Fed, they sent me flowers, or they gave me this, I don't know, baby kid edition when I updated my baby club subscription or whatever. And I think that's really important. And as I said before, I think the brand can be controlled. It's just a different way you need to control it.
Mhm.
So, that's it.